Some of the most resilient individuals that I have ever met and have had the privilege to work with are the most emotionally intelligent. They're not just gritty and resilient and able to overcome adversity because they're tough. They use emotional intelligence to develop their resilience. They use emotional intelligence to get on the other side of adverse situations. In this video, we're going to be talking about how you can use your emotional intelligence to overcome any adverse situation. Welcome to the channel. My name is Eric Herdman, and I'm a professional speaker. And we talk about things on here to make you better, just a little bit better every day, just to help you out a little bit every day with some things. Today, we're talking about emotional intelligence. We're talking about how you can use your emotional intelligence to overcome any adverse situation. By the way, if you would, and you wouldn't mind going down there and hitting that like and subscribe button, especially if you're getting some value out of these videos, please do that. It helps us out quite a bit. So I think the first place to start in this discussion about emotional intelligence and using it to overcome adversity, we should probably start by talking about what is emotional intelligence. So for that, we'll go to this graphic right here. And these are the 5 traits, characteristics, the things that make up emotional intelligence. And we'll run through them to give you an overview. However, this video, we're going to focus on just 2 of these. First up, the very top on the upper left-hand side is self-awareness. Self-awareness, well, sounds pretty much straightforward, doesn't it? But it is being aware of what am I feeling, and also, again, not just what am I feeling in my head, what's going on in my body. So there's a psychological self-awareness, what is the mood or feeling, emotional state that I'm in right now. And then there's also what's going on with my physiology. Does my low back hurt? My feet hurt? I have a lot of tension in my hips, or my knees hurt. So again, psychological and physiological awareness of oneself. There is also, and it's worth mentioning, self-awareness has an externalized piece to it, where how am I coming across to others? So that's self-awareness. Self-regulation is, well, kind of the second stop in the journey of emotional intelligence. Once you're self-aware and you can kind of at any moment throughout the day know where you are, know what you're feeling very specifically, well, then the question becomes, what do I do about those feelings, or the aching knee, or that low back tension? Well, we can self-regulate it. In the world of psychological self-awareness, having a feeling come up, anxiety or frustration or anger, or even some resentment, really strong feelings, it's often very helpful. And the people that are the most resilient and able to handle adversity will know how to regulate those feelings. They won't let them linger. They won't let them, what the neuroscientists call, hijack their brain so they become reactionary because they feel that way. You're allowed to feel any way you want. It's not about that. It's about identifying the feeling and then regulating it, calming it, quelling it, making it kind of set it aside so that you can forge ahead with whatever you were doing. Also, in emotional intelligence, there's self-motivation, the ability to just with you motivate yourself. Of course, there's empathy, as we've talked about on the channel before. And the final piece right up here is social awareness. You have the ability to read an individual and know how you're coming across them. Are my gestures, my mannerisms, the words I'm using, are they resonating, connecting? Am I pulling that person in closer in our communication and relationship, or am I doing things and saying things to shove them away, to push them away? Social awareness is also the ability to read a room, read a group of folks and know where they are. So that's, again, very quickly, what's going on with emotional intelligence. The most resilient people will start by becoming self-aware. So the rest of the video is talking about the 2 things out of all 5 traits and characteristics that you can do and use to handle adversity. And of course, you know, when we get on the other side of adversity, we do become more resilient. There's a phase of adaptation where the stress of going through and overcoming that adverse situation, that challenge, we recover and we come back stronger. But the first step in getting into that adverse situation and handling it and getting through it appropriately is self-awareness. How do I feel about this? We talked about reframing before in an earlier video in this series. And reframing is something that everybody can do because it has to do with the self-talk, right? The story we're telling ourselves. What's the internal dialogue there that we're having? Self-awareness is kind of the next step, and it's specifically relating to, okay, I've got this problem. How is it making me feel? The reason why that's important for a couple reasons. Number one, it's important to know what the feeling is so that you can regulate it. But it's also important to know what that feeling is so that you can do some things to regulate it and then get into the left brain and start solving the problem or handling the adversity or the adverse situation with logic and reason and planning. So the first step, what am I feeling? And if you look something up on the internet called the Wheel of Feel or the Wheel of Emotions, it really helps you discover how big an emotional vocabulary can be or get. And I would encourage you to take a look at the Wheel of Feel or the Wheel of Emotions and think about where you are with your emotional vocabulary development. Emotional vocabulary is just like developing our normal vocabulary. We need to work on it. We need to make sure that we're trying to do those things and use those things so that they resonate and connect with us. So again, feeling surfaces. First step, self-awareness. What am I feeling? The second step then is to regulate that. Again, we have to find a way to regulate the feeling, the emotional state that we have, because we will not be able to forge ahead and handle that adverse situation, fix the problem, come up with a plan unless we do so. The neuroscientists simply say it this way, and I say simply because neuroscientists have a way to make things very complex, but I love how they say this. What we resist will persist. What we resist paying attention to through self-awareness, what am I feeling? And just trying to white knuckle that or ignore that or pretend it's not there, guess what? It'll keep screaming, it'll keep knocking, it'll keep tapping, it'll keep banging at you until you finally, become what's called emotionally hijacked. And that's where the amygdala gets overwhelmed by that feeling and can't do anything else but be kind of short and snarky and curt and kind of, just really snappy with people. And so, and a lot of times even with ourselves, right? We don't give ourselves much grace in that space. So as I become self-aware, I'm able to label the feeling I have. And sometimes the name it to tame it or labeling it is one of the better ways to do it. You simply identify that, and that is that not resisting it, but paying attention to that emotion. And sometimes, I say sometimes because sometimes you have to do maybe a couple of these things or maybe think about it for a few moments, but sometimes immediately you can set that emotion aside. It's kind of like it's right here in front of your face, and by labeling it, you just set it right here. It can still come back, but at least it's not omnipresent. It's not blocking you. It's not giving you, a blindfold so that you cannot forge ahead. It's simply set aside, and for some folks, that's enough. Some folks will have to self-regulate by not just naming it or labeling it. They may have to take a short walk. You know that's one of my go-tos. I've done some videos on that. Sometimes folks have to do some deep diaphragmatic breathing, some deep breath. And sometimes it's not just one. Sometimes it's 5 or 15 or, sometimes it's 50. But you get the idea. Some people will listen to music. Some people will talk to someone about how they feel as a way to vent, a very cathartic process, right, of getting it out of our head, off our chest, off our back. But at that point that you have done through self-awareness, step 1, what am I feeling? What's going on up there? And you've done some form of self-regulation, you're now able to forge ahead with a much clearer vision. Because again, the way that the system works that we're talking about, the emotional, limbic, fight or flight system, the central nervous system, the sympathetic, parasympathetic system, it's known as a variety of ways, is that once we're presented with the adverse situation, the problem, the issue, the thing that in a moment seems insurmountable, we start to get feelings with it. And those feelings are rooted in the right brain. So self-awareness says, what am I feeling? In a non-judgmental, oh, woe is me, no, you're good, you're bad, that's right, that's wrong. It's not that. It's simply an awareness of that. And then we make that trip, we do that dance from self-awareness to self-regulation where we do certain things to regulate it. Name it to tame it, label it, Take a deep breath, take a walk, listen to some music, talk to someone. There are a variety of ways to kind of, again, calm that emotional feeling or state down in a way so we can forge ahead. And also, the things I've just mentioned should only take a few seconds to even just a few short minutes to get you in a better place to forge ahead. The reason why this is powerful is because, well, as you think about it, we need to solve adverse situations a lot of times logically, with reason, with a plan. And simply having that emotional state overwhelming us doesn't allow us to think clearly. It definitely doesn't allow us to get into the left brain where the logic and reasoning centers are and look at this in that way of, what do I need to do? What is appropriate? What's in my control that I can start doing to solve this problem, to start working through this adverse situation so that I can get on the other side of it and become more resilient. So just a quick recap, folks. First of all, thank you for being here, but practice that self-awareness. Get used to checking in with yourself moment by moment, second by second sometimes, and just kind of doing a quick little assessment. What am I feeling? How am I feeling? What's going on up here? And if it is even positive, but definitely the negative emotions or feelings we're having, be willing to think about, what do I need to do to regulate that? Is it something as simple as just paying attention to it for a few seconds, a quick little walk, talking to someone, a quick little conversation on the phone might help. Think about what you need to do to calm that down so that when it comes time to start working with that adverse situation, you're in a very good spot to show up as your best self. Thanks for watching, folks. And as I always say, make sure you take care of yourself so you can take care of each other. And I'll see you at the next video.